Hello again, I am Blunty, and we'll be diving right in here. No preamble, no setup, no framing. If you are here, I'm just going to assume you know damn well what the deal is with MHWilds and the beta that just ran a little under 3 weeks back. So, let's pop a thumb on that like button, drop a comment, let me know what weapon combo you're going to be jumping in with at release, because I don't know about you, but I'm switching it up from what I used for my first run-throughs of World and Rise, so I'm interested in hearing from you too. Now then, let's start chewing at this. So, context. I tried the beta on PlayStation 5, Xbox, and PC, and when I checked, I was mildly surprised to find that I had a combined playtime of 90 hours. 90, which is about 15 hours a day across all 6 days we had, so there's your first hint about how I feel about it. 63 of those hours were on the PC version, in case you're curious. And because of that thorough addiction I had with it, I decided I'd try to let my personal hype die down a bit, and let the withdrawal symptoms abate before I published my thoughts on it, in an effort to be as clear-minded and objective as possible. Naturally, this will not be pure objectivity because it is an opinion piece, but you know what I mean, right? I've even limited how much Wilds content from other creators I've been watching to allow the hype to die down a bit faster. But the clear elephant in the room is the performance and bugs. I've already spoken about this in a couple of different contexts in other videos in and around the beta, but at the end of the day it comes down to this. The code we were playing is about 6 months older than what the shape of things will be at launch, so I'm not too worried. I'm sure there will be issues at launch with performance and bugs and whatnot because, well, name one game that launches flawlessly. But I suspect the issues will be less severe and less widespread at least. Capcom have already responded in a couple of ways about this, and even the live code they're working on, right now is claimed to have significant optimizations over what the beta was capable of already, and as I record this, we're still 14 weeks away from release, or if you like, 100 days. So I'm okay giving Capcom the benefit of the doubt here, for now. I'm not expecting miracles. It's more than likely this title, like World before it, from the same dev team, will be pushing the consoles to the edge and asking more from gaming PC rigs than average. So, with that cleared away, let's talk gameplay stuff. We were all excited when the first rumors and speculations about this being a true open-world Monster Hunter game started rumbling. Now, of course, we know that while it is a lot more seamless and open than any previous title has been, open field is a better label, as we'll have to clear out the local alpha monster before unlocking the path and getting access to the next zone, and so on and so on. And I am 100% on board with that decision. I like games that do that. And I think it's a really good way to make Monster Hunter much more open and seamless while still maintaining the type of progression systems that have always been in the game. And even with access to only the initial zone in the beta, the fluidity and seamless feeling of exploration and starting hunts and investigations and whatnot was something I really appreciated. The much more continuous experience, even when using fast travel or riding out from base right into the field, was awesome. Just pumping the immersion of the carefully crafted world more than ever before. I can't wait for more. I don't love, however, how the Sacred handles. It feels a bit floaty and awkward to control, and even when auto-pathing, it's kind of dumb. I had it frequently backtracking at random, or just taking clearly very inefficient pathfinding, or just being kind of indecisive in which path it will take. I'd really like it reworked fairly significantly for a final release, something closer to the Palamutes from Rise. Those were awesome for traversal, they worked great. But in general, the speed and efficiency of using the mount to move through these large and occasionally highly vertical maps is great. And we've known since they were first officially revealed that the Sacred has an item pouch that we can restock from. The initial worries about that proved unfounded. A lot of people screeched loudly about it making the game, quote-unquote, too easy if you can just restock on healing items and stat buffs at any time, anywhere you like, even in the middle of a fight. Turns out there's no such thing as this kind of infinite restock of all your stuff, from the Sacred pouch at least. It's not what some people thought at all. Instead, it's just kind of like a mobile guild chest. Just like the ones at our campsites in World and Rise and older games, where you can snatch up a few guild-provided first aid items, maybe a couple of rations and whatnot, probably a spare, guild trap and trank bombs for capture missions. And it only restocks occasionally, and with just a couple of these things, and never with anything that one would consider OP, if you like. And just like in the other games, there are special guild items. You can't just store them up for later in your own item box. You either use them or lose them. And if you do need a full restock, well, that's the same as World and Rise. It's a full trip back to base camp and into the tent to pull from your personal crafted item box. So, that system gets an approval too. Good balance of keeping things flowing and dynamic while you are in the field without trivializing item restocking. Now, when it comes to the new ability to carry 2 weapons at once and having weapons swapping on demand, I really like it. It'll be interesting to see how this affects how armor and weapon skills are laid out. There was a lot of concern about how trying to account for 2 different weapons in an armor skill set would work, but it seems like all our armor will now have more general skills that apply to broad weapon usage, and anything that applies to only select weapons, let's say ballistics or guard up or power prolonger, those will be available directly on the weapons themselves or done through a jewel and charm system and the like. And balancing stuff like that is actually pretty exciting to me. It'll open up some very interesting ways to build new sets out for various combinations of weapons and playstyles, which is something I thoroughly enjoy doing, especially once you get to endgame, you start experimenting and stuff. As for actually switching the weapons, like as you play, I think for me, it will be more of a hunt by hunt thing. Sticking with, one weapon throughout the majority or all of the hunt, depending on the monster, and if I'm in a group or not, and what other hunters in that group are using. I did try swapping mid-fight, say from Hunting Horn after setting up some buffs to Switch Axe, and while the buffs do persist, and it works fine, I think I would prefer just locking in on the flow of using 1 weapon at a time rather than trying to balance the use of 2. So while quote-unquote pocket horning or using a bowgun to pop some buffs or status effects and then swapping out to another weapon can and does work, if you want to play like that, you sure can. I think personally I will be swapping a lot more situationally. Still though, it is awesome how seamless it can feel though. Now I, as a Monster Hunter player, am not someone who has a main weapon. Oh, I have my favorites, of course I do, but it's never been just one at all times in every game. So in the beta, I used all the weapons, and there were a few surprises in how they've evolved and changed mechanically this time. One of my old favorites, for example, has changed in ways I now find really, really off-putting. So rest well, Insectglaive. I'll try you again in the inevitable expansion when that arrives to see if you've been fixed with whatever new mechanics they add to it. But until then, I'm not attracted to you anymore, I'm sorry. It's not me, it's you. But others, like the Lance, have gone from feeling impossibly dull and tedious to me. If you're a Lance lover, no judgment. We all like what we like. But to me, I never really gelled with the Lance. It worked against my battle instincts, if you will. But in Wilds, it went to feeling shockingly fun. I've never giggled while using a lance before in this game, but now, man, what a glow-up. It is genuinely fun now. And as for ranged, I've always had a preference for light bowgun. In Rise, I had a couple of sets for the heavy built around the hilariously OP sticky ammo meta, just for laughs, because it was hilarious how OP that was. But Wilds has pushed each bowgun in a new direction. Now they have much more individual personality, more than they ever have done before, and I think that's fantastic. It took a little bit for me to get into the rhythm of this slightly new way to play these weapons, but man, I'm really enjoying the new light bowgun. And heavy is so good, it was damn hard to choose which one I liked best. I've always been a light bowgun guy as a preference, but it's real hard to choose between the two now. But in case you are curious, I think I'm still going to side with the light. Overall, basically all the new changes to weapons are great, and I'm not going to run them down one by one here. Suffice to say, I think that most people who have mains will be happy, except for my fellow Insectglaive lovers who are all kinds of divided right down the middle on the new way to play. Some people really hate it, like me, and some people love it, which, I don't know, weirdos, I guess. It did make me wonder, though, if this, the Insectglaive stuff, is how old-school Hunting Horn players felt when Rise changed so much about its playstyle. Because I'd never played Hunting Horn before Rise, and I loved it in Rise. But I always kept hearing about, a chunk, at least, of old-school Hunting Horn players did not like what Rise did to it. So I'm feeling like, how I feel about Wild's Insectglaive might be, the same kind of deal here. Which, by the way, Wild's Hunting Horn is epic fun. It is one of 2 weapons I'll be maining on my first playthrough. Easy choice. The other one is switch axe, by the way, and probably I'll maintain a light bow gun build as well. I also love the new offset moves and counter systems. They're a lot more grounded and serious, if you like, than Rise, and especially Sunbreak's wirebug-based counter system, which got very anime at times, but it's just as rewarding to pull off as well, with huge animations and great sound that make them look and feel nice and powerful and chunky and effective when you use them. It feels so satisfying when you nail the timing perfectly. It's wonderfully rewarding. Same goes for the new wounding mechanic, actually. It sits somewhere between World and Iceborne's tenderizing clutch claw stuff, which was divisive to say the least, and the Curio Swarm wounding spot stuff in Sunbreak from the Risen monsters. But I think what Wilds does in blending these two ideas is far better than either on their own, both in terms of how it mechanically works and how rewarding it is to engage with actively, simultaneously working in a way that doesn't force you into a particular approach or playstyle or repetition loop. Way more natural feeling in both setting up the wounds and what you do after they're opened, either just using them as boosted damage weak spots until they close out naturally, or using them for burst damage and special moves that trigger stuns and topples and whatnot. It adds complexity without forcing you to engage with that complexity in a really specific way. I was fairly indifferent to Iceborne's tenderizing mechanic, and I liked but didn't love the Risen Curio stuff. And like I said, I consider this to be the far superior system. They nailed it as far as I'm concerned. More generally, the details in the world, the maps, the environment, and the behaviors of the endemic life and the small monsters are all way ramped up from World and make the environments feel very alive and dense with active life. I could dig into each endemic life form and small monster one by one here, and their various behaviors I've observed in different conditions and areas and whatnot, but would be here a while I gush with nature documentary nerdy enthusiasm. Suffice to say, it is lovely work and I appreciate it very much. Same goes for our NPC friends, like how Alma, your handler, will rush over at the end of the hunt and kneel down beside the monster you've just KO'd with her notebook and make her research notes in real time. Just adorable detail. The new map presentation is a big win too. Rise had very simple, comparatively flat maps, so they were easy, but World before it had very dense, highly layered environments that the flat UI map made a huge pain in the bum to navigate sometimes. Looking at you, Ancient Forest. I don't even know how many hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of hours I have clambering around in World's Ancient Forest, but I still can't find my way around there easily. Wilds, though, keeps the dense and layered environment, but pairs it with a 3D map we can move and tilt and rotate, making life a lot easier to actually find a path that you want to go through. It's still a little clumsy to use. The zoom is too sensitive on your controller, and the magnetic snapping of your selection reticule is too aggressive for my tastes. And yes, I do know there are settings to control both of those. I didn't have much time to spend with them, but I'm just talking about the defaults are kind of annoying. But still, overall, huge improvement to how the map works and how useful it is to use. When it comes to multiplayer, I think we were all shocked when it was revealed how lobbies worked now. In World, we had 16-player lobbies and a dedicated room at base with which to hang out with other players in said lobby. In Rise, we had 4-player lobbies, and the whole town was open to your lobby. When Wilds was still being teased out, there was a lot of calls from fans for large lobbies to return. Well, they did. Except they're way bigger than you asked for. 16 players? No. Child's play. How about you try 100-player lobbies? And still with 16 others actually visible to you in your shared home camp, which I hope we can turn that off. Because it was very crowded and visually cluttered sometimes trying to get to NPCs or the tent or whatnot. Still though, it is a system I quite liked. Having 100-player lobbies made for a very active selection of multiplayer hunts to join. Or we could use Worlds-style SOS systems to search out active hunts with some filters if we want to targeting something in particular. I'd still like the option to do what I did so much of in Rise and just ask for a random multiplayer hunt from a given star level to be dropped into whatever was available first, rather than having to hunt and peck through a list. And if you take too long hunting and pecking through the list, it might wind up being out of date and a hunt you chose has been filled up with other players already or ended or whatever. I loved in Rise, I could just, with a couple of clips going, hey, send me to a hunt. I don't care what, just send me to a high rank hunt or whatever. And you just join. It's awesome. But in general, I also really like how lobbies and SOS and hubs work now. And on SOS, I like that we can get NPC hunters in if we don't get, or indeed don't want, real people to join. And the AI of these helper hunters is actually pretty damn good. Better than the already pretty impressive one in Rise, actually, where they were a lot more limited in which hunts you could use them on. And between being multi-platform, multiplayer, cross-play, and having AI hunters available to you, that means the overall life of this game is going to be extraordinary compared to some other Monster Hunter games, where at some point, the player base had shrunk down so much, or they shut down the online services for the older games, that your only choice was to play single player anymore. This game is not going to ever feel like that, because even if the player base dies down, you're still stretched across multiple platforms, and you've still got your AI hunters to help you out. It is another really nicely thought out and balanced system. And in general, the look and feel of the game, I quite like the art style. Not quite as much as I enjoyed the highly stylized approach that Rise and Sunbreak took. I really love the art style in that one, but absolutely more interesting than the somewhat too grounded, too washed out, too drab feel of World. Well, at least World could have that a lot of the time. There were some exceptions, but in general, World was, a lot more drab overall, you know what I mean? Wilds keeps some groundedness, but also brings in far more vibrant and crisp and vivid feel. Not quite as, anime or highly stylized as Rise, but still quite nice. I think they struck a nice balance between the two extremes that World and Rise represent as far as art styles go. So, I think that's pretty much all the main stuff I wanted to talk about. Let me know how you're feeling about any of this stuff in the down below, of course. Thank you very much for your attention. I am Blunty. We'll catch you next time. Thank you, as always, to the patrons scrolling away up above there. And now I can let the hype run away with me again. I can let it build up again, because, oh man, I'm so desperate to play more of this game. Just 100 more days. Long 100 days, I think. Catch you next time.